Ladies and gentlemen, in this Diablo 4 video, we're going to take a look at all the new features coming to us in Season 4 of Diablo 4 on May 14th. We're getting a massive overhaul to core foundational systems, from itemization with a heavy amount of stats being cut down, to adding brand new genuine crafting systems, big updates to Hell Tides, and more. So for anyone that's just looking to see what this season's going to be about, or even if you're still on the fence about jumping back into Diablo 4, this video will lead you in the right direction. Let's get into it. So let's start off with the new crafting system, shall we? So moving into the new season, the base legendaries in Diablo 4 will now only have 3 random affixes, with the 4th being the legendary affix. And that is where tempering is going to come into play. Tempering is one of our new crafting systems, and this is simply going to allow us to add 2 additional affixes to any of our gear. So you're always going to have those 3 base stats that you roll with. Now remember, you do still have enchanting available, so one of those can always be re-rolled. But now we get to add 2 extra affixes that are completely different from your original base 3. It seems that there's a bit of an overlap there, but nothing crazy. Now when you're out and about in the world, you're going to come across these tempering manuals. This is how you're going to unlock a specific recipe, and within each recipe, you're going to have about 6 different possible affixes that you can get. So when you go to temper the item, you pick a manual and you randomly get selected 1 out of those 6. And a great part about this is once you learn the recipe, you're going to have it forever, just like in Diablo 3. And it does look like running nightmare dungeons gets these recipes to drop quite a bit. And this is going to lead us right into itemization. Now I'm going to try to go over this as straightforward as possible. So the hyperconditional modifiers, the damage on Tuesdays, the crap like deal extra vulnerable damage to crowd control enemies, this type of stat has pretty much all been removed from the base affixes that can come as standard rolls on your gear, if that made sense. They're now mostly all going to be found in the recipes that we just spoke about when you go to temper your gear. So this is going to work very well for us. We're not going to have non-stop hyperconditionals flooding our base stats on our gear, so we can more quickly determine whether a piece of gear is good for us or not. Not only that, but we now have the choice to pick out that specific hyperconditional if we're interested in it, instead of it just being forced down your throat. And I also wanted to mention here, you do have the option to re-roll your tempered items about 5 times, just in case you didn't get the affix that you wanted. So next up, I wanted to talk about what I'm personally most excited about in Season 4, the Codex of Wisdom. Boys, the stash space problem is no more. The days are long gone of us staring into our stash, looking into a pool of loot, trying to determine what legendary is what's the roll, do I have any copies? It's fixed now. So let's take it back a few steps because there's a few things coming together that really make this work. First off, we're going to be getting less loot overall, which is a good thing. This leaves us more time to just enjoy the game and go blast. In World Tier 4, only Ancestrals will be dropping. Same exact thing with World Tier 3. We're only going to be getting Sacred drops. So right away at the end game, we can tell any yellows that come our way can immediately be salvaged. And again, this just helps us not to spend so much time at camp staring at our inventory. Now, the difference in the amount of items that are going to be dropping, comparing it to current day Diablo, is right now, if you loot everything, you're barely going to make it through one nightmare dungeon. Moving it to Season 4, though, we're looking more like every 3 to 4 dungeons is going to result in a full inventory. So more time in the open world or just blasting dungeons is always going to be a better time for me. Now this leads us straight into the greater affix system. This is going to help us determine good loot even further. So we have a chance for an item to roll with the greater affix. This could potentially mean more than one, but it becomes increasingly unlikely to get multiple greater affixes. But a greater affix is a stat that rolls 25% higher than it normally would. So this would be your end game gear. Everything without a greater affix, you won't even consider equipping anymore. Just the greater affixes, everything else we salvage at end game itemization. Now that we discussed why it's so easy to salvage everything, this leads us right back into the Codex of Wisdom. Now when you salvage any legendary, that specific legendary aspect will automatically go into the Codex of Wisdom to upgrade your base Codex of Wisdom power. So say you get that 10 out of 10 perfect roll on your aspect. Now you will permanently have that aspect unlocked in your Codex of Wisdom, and it's not a one-time use. This is going to be a permanent upgrade, and you're always going to be able to imprint that item at maximum. So there's no more digging through your stash or having the burden of just trying to find anything. It's all just gone. It's going to be all nice and tidy here in our brand new system. Now let me know down in the comments what you boys think about that. And on that note, if you guys find yourself enjoying the video so far, do me a big favor, consider hitting that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell, as it helps me out so very much. Thank you so much, guys. Now let's talk about the next best thing, the new hotness, the new and improved Hell Tides. So Hell Tides feel significantly better than what we had. First off, its mob density has been increased a lot, and in the top right hand corner we have like this GTA wanted timer system, and as that bar fills up, so will the amount of enemies on our screen. There's also going to be brand new added events throughout the Hell Tide. We have things like rituals, which are pretty much hand in hand with what we had with the Blood Tides. Brand new bosses, just more going on overall. It's more engaging, and I feel like there's just more player agency in how you go about and plan your Hell Tide route. Like, I'm going to do this objective first to summon that. I'll use this heart I got to summon a mega boss that's closer to the chest that I'm looking for. We just got some really exciting stuff here, and I think it's something that we could just all look forward to. Now we're also going to be getting the pit, and the pit is just another way of saying Diablo 3's greater rifts, and those were fun and simple. So we get 10 minutes, you're going to kill all the mini monsters as fast as you can to summon the main boss, you beat boss, and you get reward. Then you could choose to keep going into higher and higher pit levels. The best part about this though is there's nothing to pick up. There's nothing to interact with. You don't have to save the people. There's no collecting the things to put on the pedestal. Just good old-fashioned go kill shit. It has such a great flow. And on top of this, as we mentioned, we're not going to have as much loot. Only the main boss is going to be dropping that loot in this system, so we could do several pit runs before our inventory even gets full. They just took Diablo 3's greater rifts and made them better. We got the 10-minute timer instead of the 15. There's pretty much no loading screens between levels, so its flow and pacing is very nice. The Rift Guardian, the main boss, isn't placed somewhere random where you got to go find him. You just get a portal and have your way with the boss. Now coming up, our second and final system in Diablo 4 Season 4 is Masterworking. And it's in the pit that we're going to find these Masterworking crafting materials. Now to get this straight, this is a much later game system, like very end game. So you're certainly not just going to be whipping these out willy-nilly. But as you masterwork something increasingly, the cost of this will be increased as well. And the pit is where you're going to get these materials. And that works out because the pit is where we want to be. So with Masterworking, we have 12 upgrade levels, and with every level you upgrade is going to be a 5% buff to all your stats. But on every 4th upgrade, so there's going to be 3 of them, we're now going to get a 20% buff to 1 affix randomly. And if you happen to get lucky enough to get this on your tempered stat, you could still re-roll the temper, and it's going to maintain that Masterworking buff. So we're looking at big DPS upgrades, boys, when it comes to this. Now, just to tie up some loose ends, gems are better now. Nothing else to really say. They're just more straightforward. The vendors in town are going to be more consolidated. Like, all the craftsmen are super close together, so you don't have to run to one side of the town and then go back to the other. Also, they added a nice zoom level so we can zoom out just a little bit further. This is nothing that's going to blow your socks off, but it's certainly something that needs to be acknowledged. But what are your thoughts on all these changes, the brand new systems that are being implemented? Will this be enough to get you excited to jump back into Diablo 4? Is it too early to tell? Let me know down in the comments below. Hit that like button if you liked the video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more, and I will see you in the next one. Toodles!